Hi everyone, in this video I want to show you what are the best starter sets for Season 27, which classes get the best Haedrig gift sets to get going right away in the season, and obviously how to get there with the GR20 run. This is one of the most important steps in completing your first day in the season, trying to get your 6-piece set and then get going to farm up whatever other builds you want to do, get started in your first Greater Rift runs and progress from there. And in some cases, this can be a bit difficult, so I have the setups for you. So I made some fresh D3 planners here for all 7 classes, showing you a setup for the GR20 to get your 6-piece set after you have acquired the 4 pieces already, which is quite easy to do. And obviously there's also a full set setup where you just have a bit of a pointer of which are the core items, what to build to get going from there with the 6-piece bonus. This is not like the full guide here. Obviously, you can go check out our macro guides for all of these builds, but it gives you a bit of an idea to understand like what are the most important items to get into Torment 16 and further. By far the winner this season is the Demon Hunter with Unhallowed Essence, the multi-shot build. It's a classic and it gets you going into T16 very easily. It allows you to speed farm the low-end content really quickly to gear up whatever you want. And Demon Hunter is looking really strong in general next season around. So this is the top starter class in my opinion. There's also the Barbarian with Waste set, so Spin to Win, Whirlwind also always works and also gets you going into the higher difficulties rather easily, where then you can farm up your Hammer of the Ancients or your Raker setups. There are some other classes that get strong sets, like the Necromancer with the Rathma. That's kind of nice, but it's not really like a speed farming set early on, so it might be a bit slow to get going. And there's also Tarasha, which we expect will get another massive buff in the final patch notes. Right now, it's not really that hot though. The other builds for the other classes are Helltooth on Witch Doctor, not really that great. Raymond on Monk, it's pretty terrible, but Monk in general is really strong aside from the starter set. And there's Roland for the Crusader, which gives you a pretty easy time early on, but Crusader is also not looking super hot. So with that out of the way, I'm gonna jump into each of the individual classes. I'm gonna show you what to do to get the GR20 done with like the most bare bones setup. So everything you can see here is with no paragons, with basically no legendary gems. And yeah, really there's like random yellow items and the 4-piece bonus that you get from the Haedrig's gift. Most of the time I didn't reroll anything, so this is as bad as it can be, basically. I have timestamps in the description, so you can just jump forward to whatever class you want to see or watch the full video. Before we continue, a short word from the sponsor of today's video, Torchlight Infinite, developed by XD. A little while ago I had the opportunity to try out the game's beta, and it seemed quite promising to me. I made a full video talking about the game's features, so if you want to see more, the link will be in the description. This is an upcoming free-to-play ARPG that will release on mobile, PC and console platforms later this year with cross-progression, and it's a successor to the famous Torchlight 2. Especially if you've arrived on my channel because of Diablo Immortal content and then you saw me quit our game, then this might be a really good alternative, because the monetization is done way better in my opinion. This is free to play, it will not have any kind of pay to win, there will be no paywalls, and all purchases, which will be mostly based around cosmetic items and visual effects, will be account wide. This means you can play through the entire game, upgrade your character to the maximum, and you won't ever have to spend a dime compared to other games. When I played the game in the beta, it already felt quite good to me, with various interesting classes to choose from and engaging boss fights immediately as you jump into the campaign. There are a lot of different combinations, and the developers put a really big focus on character customization, on build exploration in this game, and aside from the skill system, there are also more systems like traits, talents, and the pact that allow you to go further into one or the other direction with your character. Right now, the game is still in closed beta, but you might have a chance to get in if you register, or maybe at a later point. But I can just say, try it out. So let's get started with Barbarian here. We have the Waste set, and this one already gives us pretty sizable damage buffs for Rend. So the idea is you run from pack to pack, you press Rend, and then you tap Whirlwind, and this gives you another damage boost and damage reduction bonus as well. and you just keep blasting through the rift. It's very easy because you have so much base damage on your ends. You just have to do that combo, Rend and Whirlwind. And otherwise you can stack mobility like Charge and Leap. That also gives you resources. You can have the Unforgiving passive that gives you extra resources. So you shouldn't really have any trouble with anything. And you can stack up some extra buffs, Battle Rage, Warcry, Rampage. So you can just like press these buttons here for extra fury and just blast through the rift. It is very easy to do. Once you have the full set, you want to acquire some key items, especially Band of Might. So this is very easy to get from a level 1 Barbarian. You can just make a fresh character and gamble. There are, I think, only 2 different rings you can get. One of them is Band of Might. So this is a very good way to get it and then stick it in the cube. Lamentation is very important to give you a huge damage bonus for your rend. And also Ambo's Pride, which automatically applies rend once you whirlwind. So this is like the typical spin to win Barb build that you want to go for. And from this point, you should have not really any issue farming probably Torment 16 already. Just with those items, stack up lots of defenses because early on might be squishy. And you're going to be fine to get whatever you want, Raker, Hoda, and so on. Or just stick to Wastes, which is still a pretty solid farming build at least. Next up, we have the Crusader. This is a very easy GR20 run because the 4-piece bonus gives us a huge damage bonus already. It's basically the 6-piece bonus of other sets that gives you 17,500% damage for your sweep. So you just horse around and sweep stuff. And other than this, you just stack up defenses, you stack up resources wherever you can. So we have, for example, Akrat's Champion. We have the Laws of Valor, Unstoppable Force for resource cost reduction, Iron Skin. And you just run around and one-shot everything. So this is super easy to do with the GR20. And the 6-piece bonus gives you good damage reduction, a bit of attack speed, so that makes it a bit better. In general, Lowlands is not really that great though. So the Crusaders are kind of off to a slow start, despite having a very easy time getting their full set. So once you have the full set, you want to get a few core items like the Denial Shield. So you want to try to gamble some shields or craft shields to get this. And also the Golden Flans, which is a 2-handed flail that you want to stick in the cube or potentially wear as well if you get a good one. With this, you shouldn't have that much trouble going into the higher torments like 13 plus, but it is kind of slow compared to some of the top builds. So you really want to transition to something like Fist of the Heavens or Bombardment very quickly, or potentially the new Arcane Condemn build, which is also pretty solid. Next up, we have the Demon Hunter. So Demon Hunter, 4-piece bonus on Unhallowed Essence, doesn't really do all that much for you. It just gives you a bit of damage reduction and damage bonus, but it's kind of negligible. So the idea here is that you use an extra item. Usually when you level a Demon Hunter, you'll upgrade a rare dagger to a legendary in the cube at level 1, and you'll get either the Kali's Point or the Lord Greenstone. Those are the only 2 options, so you're gonna have at least one of those as a damage multiplier. It is possible to complete GR20 with just one of them and nothing else. So it's okay, but if you get the Kali, it might be a bit slow because you just have to impale stuff one by one with like a cold impale. So you just run around and throw knives and try to keep up the 4-piece bonus on the UE 4-piece here. The better variant is with Lord Greenstone. So this is the luckier version that you can see here in the background with Fan of Knives. So here you play the Lightning Fan of Knives rune that has lots of extra damage. And you just run around from pack to pack and one-shot it whenever the cooldown is up, because your Fan of Knives just gets an insanely huge stacking damage bonus until the next time you use it. So like this, you have no trouble completing GR20, but as I mentioned, it works with both setups. Once you have the full build, you want to try to get the core multi-shot items. So we have the Yang's V-Curve first and foremost, very important item, multi-shot damage, multi-shot attack speed, and lots of resource cost reduction. So this is the core Demon Hunter item. And we have the Demon's Legacy, a quiver that you usually want to try to gamble. Once you have the full set and those 2 items, you're basically set up to just blast through higher torments like 13 plus easily already. And this is where this really fast start for Demon Hunters comes in. Demon Hunters are not really the best at going from 1 to 70, so you might be a bit slower there than other classes, but once you have an Unhallowed Essence set and those 2 items, you're gonna be destroying the low-end content. T16, you can farm up any build, you can get the Strafe Impale setup going, and you're going to be annihilating from that point forward. Next up, we have the Raymond Monk. So this is a very weak starter set, as I mentioned in the intro, and it doesn't also offer that much on the 4-piece bonus. You just get a bit of extra damage for your generators, and you can use Dashing Strike a bit more, and this is it. So you have to try a bit harder than on other classes, unless you have like a lucky item drop that buffs something, or that gives you like the Mystic Allies from the Crusader's Boots. So this is like a strategy that people try to go for at level 1. So you might have an item there that helps you, but if you don't, it is possible to do it with just the 4-piece bonus, but you have to include something like Exploding Palm. So the idea is you try to use your extra resources to palm up some of the weaker monsters, as you can see here, and you explode them by attacking with your generators. So try to make some larger pulls with small enemies, palm up a few monsters, and then try to pop them. So a little bit like Uliana, but you have to do more work yourself. So like this, it kind of works, and you can just like punch the Rift Guardian to death at the end, which might take a little while, but you will get your 6-piece bonus like this, and you can keep going from there. Once you have the full setup, you want to include especially a lot of damage reduction. Raymond has no built-in damage reduction at all, so you kind of need something like Spirit Guards, you kind of need something like Lefebvre's or Liloki, just to be able to kind of survive even like Torment difficulties. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get started with this. It might be not such a terrible idea that if you get, for example, Crusader's Boots at level 1, or just make a fresh Monk level 1 and gamble Crusader's Boots, you just go with those and start playing with the Legacy of Dreams from there. You can quite easily just use the Water Allies to carry yourself, but otherwise you have the Raymond here with the full setup that can also do the higher torments. Either way, I definitely recommend switching away from this Raymond set as fast as possible. So once you have it, you want to try to maybe farm like Torment 10, Torment 13, something like that, until you get something like Inner going, or maybe even get your first LOD stuff with Web of Light, and you can go with that. Here is the Rathma Necromancer. Rathma is one of the strongest builds in Season 27, but not exactly the greatest like starter and farming build. While it is very powerful and can go very high tiers with this once you have the full setup, you don't go really fast, and it's quite difficult to do it well because it's quite squishy. You need good timing, you need to pay attention, so you might want to mostly farm with other setups. But it is good if you want to try it. If you want to get your GR20 run with this setup, then you have to make sure you get a bit of cooldown reduction on your items. So this is like the #1 priority, cooldown wherever you can, to reduce the cooldown of Army of the Dead, which is your main nuke ability. You include a lot of pets here, but they are basically just dummies to reduce the cooldown of your army, and this is what actually deals damage. There's a pretty strong seasonal theme power that you can maybe acquire early on as well, which does make this even more of a breeze and especially speeds up the farming for this build, so this is kind of nice, but the GR20 works either way. So you just have the typical Rathma setup. You have to have the command skeletons that you can just command to attack some targets. You want to get your revives up because they help you as well. And otherwise you have like utility skills like Blood Rush, Scythe, you can attack a little bit, get your resources, Bone Armor for a bit of damage reduction, and then Army to that Death Valley, which has a 120 seconds cooldown, so the more you reduce it, the better. Once you have the full 6-piece bonus, you want to get the Fates Wow. So this is the Army of the Dead Helm that gives you lots of extra damage and an extra rune. You want to get obviously stuff like the Crispin Sentence, the most powerful ring in the game, and the new Funerary Pick that was reworked in Season 27. So this is going to be included in all of the Rathma builds now, so you siphon blood from enemies and you deal more damage while doing so. It is a very powerful effect, and you can combine this with Rathma really well. And then there's also the Jassiv set. So this is a very squishy setup, but you can make it more tanky with something like Esoteric Alterations. So that might be a good gem to level quite early on. 4016, you can also get Gold Wrap, for example. So there are ways to make it a bit better for like a low-end farming experience, but generally you want to go really fast on season start and not really worry too much about going very high tiers. You just need to gear up as quickly as possible. So if you don't want to do that with Rathma, I would recommend just doing like groups and play rats or something like that. Here comes the Witch Doctor with Helltooth. Helltooth has a pretty easy start, so the GR20 run is a breeze. You get this 2-piece bonus effect in particular that applies like a weapon damage dot to enemies, and that one alone just carries the entire run already. So your main objective is just applying that debuff. You can do this with a lot of different skills, and it doesn't really matter all that much what you're doing because stuff just melts slowly. You can improve it by just like spamming more abilities. Maybe you already found some damage multiplier for some skill. You can throw that in there and it's going to be a breeze in GR20. So there's nothing really to worry about. Then you have the full set. So typically Helltooth is best played with the zombie bears. So this is like a fairly solid farming build. You can run T60 with this rather easily. You can do like GR90s with this rather easily. So it does work to gear up your Witch Doctor a little bit, but it's not the most powerful. And in Season 27 in particular, the Helltooth also gets a huge buff for Gargantuans with the seasonal theme effect. So this is probably what a lot of people want to go for eventually, once you have acquired some of those angelic crucibles. But for zombie bears, you probably want to get started with this. You get the Scrimshaw, which is very easy to get. You just upgrade spears. I believe this is a 50-50 chance to get Scrimshaw, so very easy to get this one by just upgrading spears. And you gamble with your offense for the Urza's Troll and Effigy. And those are the 2 core zombie bear items that will just carry you all the way. And then you want to stack up more damage reduction. So you could get a Gold Wrap, or you can go with the Sacred Harvester and Lacumba's Ornament combo. That one gives you a lot of damage reduction, and you should be fine. And from there on, you can try to complete more of the setup, get a Ring of Emptiness, get some of the other sets. And from there on, you can farm up other items like Ring of Emptiness and Unity, and maybe some other sets like Mundunugu or Arakia that are just a bit stronger than Helltooth. Overall, with the seasonal theme powers, it's looking actually pretty good for the Witch Doctors. They get a lot of really interesting effects, a lot of really fun effects. They're not like top tier across the board, but they are fairly solid. So there's definitely a reason to play Witch Doctor this time around, I believe. And finally, here comes the Wizard. So we have the reworked Tarasha set, which is not final yet. I believe there's going to be some pretty big change coming to this, especially a pretty big buff to this. So right now, Tarasha with Meteor is fairly weak, and since it's the new stuff, and a lot of people would like to play some Meteor again, I believe we're going to see some insane boost to this in the final patch notes. But for now, I can tell you the GR20 run is very easy anyway, mostly carried by this 2-piece bonus, where you just proc these meteors all the time, as you can see here. So the trick is you have an automated lightning meteor from Storm Armor, you have an automated cold meteor from Familiar, and then you press your other buttons, especially Spectral Blade or the Piercing Orb, just to like proc even more meteors. And you can see them like flying down here all the time. So this works really well, and you don't really have to do much to complete this GR20. You just blast through everything with those base multipliers. Once you have the full Tarasha set, you want to try to get the 2 staffs. So you want to try to upgrade staffs to get the Grand Vizier and the Smoldering Core. Those are the 2 Meteor items here that you want to use. Theoretically, for low GRs, you might also be able to run something like Etherwalker just with the Grand Vizier, so you don't actually use this stacking mechanic from the Smoldering Core, but this is like the stronger choice here. Once you go higher tiers, it gives you even more damage. And obviously the Nilfur's Boast is like a huge meteor multiplier again. And then you try to stack up extra damage reduction. For example, the Haedrig of Karini is a very core wizard item. And for example, Ashnagar's Bloodbracer for bigger shields, and you should be fine. Right now, it doesn't look like Tarasha is going to be like the fastest build to just like run 1-minute rifts or something, but it should definitely end up as a fairly powerful option if we see another big buff to it, which is expected. So we'll see where it will land in the end. But Wizard has a bunch of other good builds that are useful for farming and pushing. There's this new LOD Magic Missile build that I really like for T16 and low GRs. There are the Firebird variants with the magic missiles as well, which is one of the best farming builds in the game actually. It's really good. And yeah, in general, you have a bunch of solid options on the Wizard. So quite excited to play those as well. And this also concludes the video. Overall, I'm really excited for Season 27. I believe with this new seasonal theme and the angelic powers, there's a lot of really cool stuff to explore for everyone. And I'm personally excited to try it out myself. I've been playing it on the PTR for quite a bit. I've tried out a lot of builds there, but this is obviously not the same as doing it on a live server with everyone else, with the final patch notes that we're going to see soon, I guess. And let's see where it will go. So, hope you enjoyed this overview here. Hope it helps you for your own season start in Season 27. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you're going to play and what is your plan for the season. I'm quite excited to hear that. So, I'll leave you with this. Subscribe for more D3 content, and I'll see you guys next time.